Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar from Anicca Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley Payne, host, and I'd like to say hello to Angie. How are you going to say hi, Angie?
Hi, sorry, you froze for a second.
Angie's going to be doing her first webinar with us today. So we're going to be talking about turning marketing leads into sales and the tricks of the trade. So while we're just waiting for a few more people to join us, I'm going to run a couple of polls. And for anybody that's not actually been to a webinar before, what happens is I need to read these out so that they'll be in the recording. And you'll get the recording later on this afternoon. So if you register or any of your colleagues register, you'll get the recording. So are you or anyone else in your business responsible for sales and marketing? So there's a couple of no answers and there's some yes answers. So no, I'm a student, unemployed, or just setting up a new business. No, we don't have these roles at the moment. The business is closed. No, we rely on existing clients and word of mouth or referrals. No, but planning to employ either a sales or marketing person in the near future. Interestingly, nobody said any of the no's, so that's really interesting. Yes, I'm a business owner or manager and have to do everything. Yes, we have a combined sales and marketing role, individual or team. Yes, we have a separate individual or team doing marketing. Yes, we have a separate individual or team doing sales. This really is to try and differentiate the people that have actually separated those two roles out. At the moment, it's a pretty even split. The biggest is 30% with yes, I've combined sales and marketing role. There's only a couple of people who aren't, a couple of individuals that are not doing anything in this at all. And obviously they must be thinking about doing this for the future. The next, they're just about split evenly now. So pretty much a even split between the yeses. So we've got the most popular at the moment is a combined role. And then a separate individual salesperson or a sales team. Okay, so let's go back to the queue and let's do the next one. The next one's a bit longer, lots more choices. So when I bring that one up, so you can tick lots here. You don't have to just tick one answer. So the question is, what are the main issues with your sales and marketing processes? None, we don't have these roles or it doesn't apply to me at the moment. And then I've got a whole list of reasons which may apply to you. So please start ticking the ones that apply to you. The sales team does not get enough leads from marketing. That's the inbound leads. The sales teams, and the marketing teams don't always sync up, and often they have different issues, and sometimes they blame each other and sometimes they blame themselves. So I'm trying to sort of understand that really. So the next one is the quality of leads from marketing is not good enough. There is insufficient marketing budget or the cost of getting marketing leads is very high. The sales team does not convert enough the leads supplied by marketing. We often hear marketeers complaining that they get all these leads and then nothing happens to them, even if it's yourself. The sales teams do not generate enough of their own leads. We do not have the right software or tracking in place. The sales and marketing processes are not aligned or work together. There is not enough demand. The market is not buying due to the economy. Oh, that's a very popular one. Obviously, with COVID, that's going to be a bit of an issue at the moment. It's too difficult to sell due to companies' reputation offer prices versus competitors. If you're in a very competitive sector, it can be difficult to sell. We need more sales and marketing staff to help, or we need help from someone else. So this is, as I expected, this one would be quite evenly spread. Let me find the most popular one. So the most popular one at the moment is the sales team does not convert enough of the leads supplied by marketing. It would be really interested in the chat if you could sort of give us some percentages. We know the percentages of conversions is definitely down at the moment. There's a lot of people making, putting in leads, but they're not necessarily converting as many. And then the next most popular one is we just need more resources. So hopefully that's quite useful for you, Angie, so you can get an idea of what everybody's thinking.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you.
And then I if any of you guys would like to stick a question in either the chat or the question, I can answer them if I can while we're going along, and we're both going to turn our camera off so that Angie can get going. But it's over to you, Angie. I'm just going to turn my camera off now.
Thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone. Just a word of warning before we start. I've only got one screen and I'm going through between my notes and changing the slide, so it might take a couple of seconds delay between each slide. But thanks ever so much for coming to the webinar. As Anne said, I'm Angie Padfield and I joined Anicca in October of last year. So I was a lockdown work changer, which isn't easy, but it's been fantastic, lovely company to work for. And I have the role of business development manager. So at Anicca, just saying that, we have split out the marketing and the sales roles. So normally our webinars will take an aspect of digital marketing and we'll delve into the expert knowledge of the presenter from our team, and they'll talk to you about their specialism. So this is quite different today. Today's webinar is not really marketing related at all. It's all about turning the marketing leads into sales. So for example, because I'm in sales, I've got to say it, Anicca Digital, they'll create a fantastic digital marketing strategies and they'll implement them and they'll generate all these fantastic leads for you. But then there comes a point where it's human interaction and a human being gets involved, and that's me. And today it's my tips about how to sell person to person and what makes a great salesperson. I will not profess to be a sales trainer. In fact, training is not my bag at all. I've tried a bit of that, dabbled, and I didn't like it. Indeed, I'm not a public speaker either, but today is just really about sharing my experiences of how I think what can make those incremental changes to help your business grow. A lot of the content will be stuff that you probably already know, but it's actually good to have a refresh, and that focuses the mind. So really, let's get going and get stuck in. One moment. So yeah, a little bit about me. I've been in sales for 27 years. My God, sounds like a long time. And I have sold business to consumer as well as business to business, but I do have a preference for business to business. Some of the things I've sold over the years, I've sold ice cream out of an ice cream van. I've sold tickets to pub crawls in Thailand along the beach, and I've had to actually go on those pub crawls as well, of course. Yeah, you know, you got to. I've sold furniture for MFI. I did a 10-year stint selling memberships in health and fitness clubs all across the country. That was my own business. And more recently, I sold marketing campaigns for Reach PLC. Reach are the company who, obviously we're in Leicester, and if you are in Leicester, you'll know of the Leicester Mercury or perhaps the Nottingham Post. They own the regional newspapers and news websites across the country. They're the UK's largest news publisher. And I would help businesses grow through marketing strategy and implementation. I did that for 13 years. I'm married to Richard, and we've got, well, they're my stepkids, but because I haven't got any of my own, I don't view them like that. They're just my kids. I've got 10 grandkids and 3 great grandkids. Yes, Christmas is very expensive, so it's all the more important to be good at what I do so I can earn those bonuses to be able to afford it. And as you'll expect with 8 kids, there's always something that they're asking for. Anybody with kids knows that's the case. Yeah, I've travelled extensively, I'd say, every continent. And for 6 of those years, I settled in Thailand, which is where my passion for food comes from. My husband loves my food. We have Thai food about 3 times a week. And literally, my passion is to understand how businesses work, how they run, what their business models are. And I really want to make a difference to their bottom line to help them grow. That's what I'm about. So a bit about Anicca. It's pretty simple what we do when it boils down to it, in the simplest terms. We help businesses generate more leads and sales through data-driven marketing strategy and implementation. So anybody who wants to sell more is a potential customer of ours in theory. Here's some examples of the clients that we work with. So there's some big names on here, like the NHS, Palex and Deichmann. But we work with smaller companies too. They may have smaller marketing budgets, but it's great to start small with companies and go through the journey with them to see them grow, see their sales increase. Because if the marketing's working for them, it makes sense to do more of it, and we can advise on that. And if our clients are winning, then we're winning. It's a win-win situation. So just what we're going to go through today. The fundamentals of selling. Who is your perfect client? The first 30 seconds and how to make an impression. What makes a potential client tick? Unique selling points and marginal gains. What makes a great salesperson? Dealing with objections. Closing the sale, and it says in brackets there, or should you? So we'll come on to that in a bit. And my final thoughts. Good old Jerry Maguire there. So straight off the bat, if you don't sell, then you haven't got a business. So it's just simple economics, really. Someone in your business, if not you, has to be responsible for sales. Now, sales, it's a funny one because people, you hear it often, somebody's trying to sell to me, and I don't like salespeople, but it's not a dirty word, and it shouldn't be. All you're trying to do if you're selling somebody something is you're actually just trying to help them by providing a solution, the right product or service. So for those of you that aren't keen on selling or don't like the word sales, I would just suggest, if you think of it like all you're doing is wanting to help somebody, and if you think of it like that, because that's all I do all day, every day, is help people, then it's usually, you'll probably find that it's a lot easier to sell, and you might even end up enjoying it. So your goal also, I would say it's really important to establish your goals in the first instance. And people might think, and even Anne on the call, you might think that goal is the target, that revenue figure. But actually, it's beyond that. It's not quite what the goal is. So from an individual perspective, it could be that the goal is for a particular holiday or a new car or home improvements. But it's visualizing what that end goal looks like for you, because of money in the bank, that's not the end goal. From a business perspective as well, is it expansion, or is it having a bigger team, branching out into new markets? So it's important to establish that goal, and goal setting is crucial in the first instance. The goal for me, it's probably just making sure I can buy all the kids' Christmas presents, isn't it? But I would say it's a funny one because I'm not very materialistic. I'm quite happy in my little 1-bedroom flat, and don't want a bigger house or car, but actually getting up every day, my goal is to make sure that I help people, because that just makes me feel good. Now, the proposition itself, is the product or service good? Are you selling it at a price where it gives the customer value for money? And can you demonstrate that value of the product or service? So does the value come across to the client? And you have to be really careful to make sure that that proposition is spot on, because if not, it's very unlikely that you're going to sell much, unless you're talking to me, because I'm quite easy to sell to. But yeah, I'd say making sure that proposition, and use people as soundboards to make sure that you think that proposition is right. If you start on your selling journey and you get so far and you're just not selling, that's probably the place to go back to, the actual proposition itself. Now, understanding the customer journey. So put yourself in the customer's shoes. How do people buy your product or service? And also, how long is that buying cycle? I mean, If it's a critical buy, where, you know, say you've lost your keys, you can't get in the house, the buying cycle for a locksmith is going to look very, very different to the buying cycle for buying a house, for example. So it's important to not just understand the length of the buying cycle so that you can plan your finances, but also put yourself in the customer's shoes, look at what the competition are doing as well. And in the long run, that will all help you to sell. Yeah, and do your homework. So this goes back generations in my family. My nana's 95 in Newcastle, and she's still to this day says preparation prevents poor performance. If you're going to be talking to clients, potential clients, when you're going on to a call or into a meeting, then find out as much about that company as possible. And we'll look at the marginal gains and what kind of things you can be looking at in more detail in a further slide. As Leo. So when you're identifying your perfect client, I mean, Anicca are fantastic at being able to target specific audiences and to try and get those inbound leads that are the perfect target client for you. But when it comes to actually finding, from a salesperson's perspective, calling out, and it's the outbound side of things that I'm looking at here. So first of all, where I would start is with the current clients. We've all got clients that are easier and harder to work with. So it's worth looking at who are the clients that are easy to work with and what do they look like? What sectors are they in? Obviously, who spends the most money, where the most opportunity is. Also look at who's hard to work with. Maybe you don't want more clients like that. And find out of the current clients that you have, who are the biggest fans of your business and who advocate you. Because to get more clients on board like this means that they are going to be doing the salesperson jobs for you. They're going to be advocating your business and referring back. Look at sectors. Are there any sectors that you work with a lot? And are there any sectors that you think that you're an expert in? So for Anicca, we know that we've had some fantastic successes with manufacturing, with medical, with property and construction. But yeah, try and identify the target sectors. And it could be that in the geography that you trade in, that there are sectors that are more prevalent that you want to look into as well. And also I'm not going to get through a webinar without mentioning the word COVID, am I? So here it comes. So in COVID times, what are the sectors that are going from strength to strength? Which sectors have really benefited and are buoyant? So there's going to be less chance that you lose your clients if you're working with a sector that's really doing well. And also look at what sectors are emerging, what are the new sectors, and be ahead of the curve with that. If you can work with them, that'd be fantastic. Now, hero clients. I was talking to the music licensing company, PRS, last week, actually, and they were unbelievably, as you know, you have to have a license to play music in your premises if you're a business. It's not a tax, all the money goes back to the musicians, but they were telling me that their hero client that they wanted to work with was Aldi and Lidl. And then it got me to thinking, did I realise that Aldi and Lidl don't actually play music in their stores where Asda and Sainsbury's, Tesco do? But they've been in business, PRS, for 3 years now, and they are still banging the door to try and reach their hero client, and they're not giving up. So my advice with the hero client is the faster that first of all, if you want to identify the top 10 companies that would be your dream to work with, and then actually make them your priority to contact early, because there tend to be longer burns, because probably of the size of the organization, the number of departments, there could be 10 different doors that you knock on before you get through to the right person that you need to speak to. And even then, it could be that they already have a supplier or provider of the service or product that you're offering. But I'll give you an example of how persistence can pay off. I remember when I was working at Reach and I was wanting, one of my hero clients, my dream clients was JCB. And I actually pursued them for 5 years before we started working together. And I literally just used to have a conversation. I mean, I was speaking to the chief exec, which is a winner. That's always good. And every few months I would ring just to find out if his circumstances had changed, how business was for them, what was new our end, and just to see if we could make any headway. During that time, I'd pick up lots of information about him. So I knew that he was a massive rugby fan. He was an ex-army guy. But the problem with Richard was he was quite happy in the status quo. He wasn't really interested in changing anything. It was easier to stay the same. So it's quite a hard guy to persuade and convince. Then one Christmas, it had been, I can't remember what year it was, but it snowed really, really heavy. And he'd got calls from airports all the way across the country to hire his plant to clear the runways. And I happened to call him around this time. So it was just a hit on the right time. He'd made loads of money and he was in a really good mood. And I presented him the sports awards, the Leicester Mercury Sports Awards at the time. And what ticked the box for him, the angle that I went down, which I hadn't done before, was the corporate and social responsibility angle. And that really struck a chord with him. So it just went to show that perseverance did pay off in the end. It is often, like I say, a long burn, but I'm sure there's other companies, if I thought hard enough, that have been longer than 5 years, but definitely keep going with these guys. Also, synergies with other companies, look at your potential clients and do they have the same values, ethics and culture as your company? Because if they do, there's a lot of things in common that you can start talking about that will lead to a good talking point, a good conversation. But also, I say on the flip side, and this is what I'm impressed with since working with Anicca, look, you may have incoming leads where actually those ethics don't align with your business. And if that's the case, even though there's an incoming lead and they want your service and it's sitting there, it might be that you decide, actually, that's not the kind of business you want. And I've seen circumstances where Anne's turned around to me and said, they don't really align with our values. So that's fab. And then use your data. Obviously, that's what Anicca are experts in. But just from a layman's perspective, my perspective, there's been businesses that I've spoken to over the last few weeks, even when I've asked them about their CRM system, they actually don't use one. There's some fantastic reports they've set up properly that you can get out of CRM to see who's engaging with you, what sectors, and all of the hero clients, sectors, current clients. You can use that data to prioritize who you're best contacting first.
Angie, could you just explain what CRM is? Because some people won't know what that means. But if you give them a couple of examples, that might really help.
Yeah. CRM stands for a client relationship manager or customer relationship manager system. From my perspective, I use that as my task manager, but we have Ed in our marketing team who can pull off different reports to find out. We can use it as an email marketing or email automation system. We can use it to get reports as to where our sales are coming from, who our current clients are, what they're investing in, what products they're taking, or what platforms they're using. It can be set up bespokely to get what you want out of the business. And we can help with that. But for smaller businesses, it's something that you can actually, there's a lot of free platforms on the market where you can start off with one of the free softwares. And as you need to get more out of it, then it comes where you're paying for it. But there's no way from my perspective that I can talk to somebody today. And then if I know that the time to ring them again is in 6 months, if I'm putting that in my Google Calendar, it's going to get really crowded. So CRM will tell me every point of contact that anybody in their business has had with that customer over the years. So that it's just a vital, it's an essential. Does that answer your question, sort of, Anne, or do you want to add to it?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm just going to put a webinar in the link for where I did a whole session on marketing automation and CRM. I'm just finding it and I'll put it in the link. Sorry, I turned my mic off while you were talking, but do carry on.
Okay. I just wanted to put this slide in really just to make sure that we're all on the same page with the stages of the sales process. So I'll not spend too long on this, but so we've identified who we want to call. We prepare for that, and I'll go into the preparation in a bit. Call them. That initial call is to set up a meeting in my case. It could be to sell on that first call. It really depends on what your service and product is. Then that first meeting is a discovery call, or what I term as a fact find, so that we can gather all the information and really understand and get to grips with and under the skin of that business. In my case, I'll follow up on a second meeting with a pitch or proposal. I have to go away and really think about what's going to be best and what's the best solution for that client. I can't be talking to them about that on that initial call. Then I'll ask for the business, handle any objections. After handling those objections, as long as the customer agrees with the fact that that isn't an objection, it's something else, we can then ask for the business again. Often they have to go away and think about it, which is fine. Absolutely. Or talk to their business partner. Absolutely fine. So we'll follow up, and what I do is I always arrange a time that I will call them back so that they're expecting my call and it's not out the blue. Later on down the line, if we have sold to that person and they've come on board as a client, the upsell opportunities and opportunities to ask for referrals come at that point. So the sale never really stops with the client. And sales and customer service are very, very closely aligned. So you could be saying that when you're offering fantastic customer service, you're selling, or you could be saying that when you're selling, you're offering fantastic customer service. So they're very closely aligned there. Okay. One sec. Yeah, so first impressions definitely do count. So when you call, before you get through to this decision maker, you have to get past the gatekeeper. And I'm guessing that everybody knows what a gatekeeper is, but just in case, it's the receptionist or the PA or the person who answers the phone that's been told by the person you want to speak to just put through certain calls and not waste their time, really. But human nature means that people want to be helpful in general. So if I'm going to call a company where I don't know who the decision maker is, this is just like an example of what I would say. In the initial instance, before I get through to the decision maker, I'd be saying, "Hi, I'm Angie from Anicca Digital. I haven't called before, so I'm not sure who would be the right person to speak to, but I'm hoping that you would be able to point me in the right direction. Could you tell me who would be the best person to speak to when it comes to marketing or digital marketing? Who would be in charge of that? Can you help me?" And sometimes, yeah, okay, it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, one thing is for sure in sales, you need to be able to handle rejection, and you can't win them all. But people do generally, and I find even more so since lockdown, people are wanting to talk and they do want to be helpful. I will be honest, I do honestly believe that the Geordie accent does help me in my sales, because when people hear a different accent, and Geordie's got like this reputation for being ultra friendly, but then don't be all trying to learn the Geordie accents, because I've heard some really bad impressions and it probably won't work. But yeah, it's getting through to the decision maker and reconfirm that they are the decision maker, and don't take it for granted, because there's nothing worse than going through your whole call and then you find out that actually this is a marketing person, but they don't make the decision. If you have done that, and I've done it times, and you have been speaking to the wrong person, it's not the worst thing in the world, because at least they are now aware of your company and you've told them all about you. But so it's all good. And then when you get through to the actual decision maker, that's when the CAB comes into play. So that is your credentials, your appreciation of something about their business, and the benefit of hearing what you've got to say. If you can do the CAB correctly, that could be the difference of making the first 30 seconds. It'll determine whether you get another 30 seconds. So my sort of an example, if you like, of a CAB that I would use. So, hiya, my name's Angie. I'm calling from Anicca Digital. I've noticed that you've launched a new website, and I've had a good look around it, and I've got to say, it's really nice. I really like it. It looks good. It's easy to use, and it's got loads of call to actions to increase your leads. But Anicca specialises in marketing strategies to help businesses increase their leads. And then obviously they'll convert to sales and ultimately grow your business. Can you tell me about what your current lead generation tactics are within X business? So what I've done is I've told them who I am, I've stroked their ego, and I've told them how we can add value, what's in it for them. And then at the end of that CAB, I've finished with a question that is an open question. Can you tell me a bit about the current lead generation tactics you use? So it's not a yes or no answer, and that'll open them up to talking about their business. And people love to talk about their business. And then plenty more questions will follow to continue the conversation. Back to the 4 Ps though, preparation prevents poor performance. I'll always prepare my CAB before the call. Okay. One sec. So what makes the client tick? So if you're successful in getting a meeting from that first call, what does that first meeting need to achieve? For me, it's a fact find. This person doesn't want you to bang on about how fantastic your company and how great you are. It's not what they want. They're looking to be assured that you understand what their business is all about. That's what it's for. So what the kind of questions that I'll be asking is I'll find out about the company's history. What's their journey been through the years or months? Who knows? What's their business model? What do they sell? How do they sell it? Who are the competition? What are they doing? What are their challenges, pain points? What are their missed opportunities? Who is their current provider? Are they happy with them? Who are their current customers? Who are their target market? And all of these questions will help you get under the skin of that client. And what you're looking for is there's golden nuggets and pieces of information that will help you unearth what their need is. Because without a need, without establishing what that need is, it'll come back to bite you later on when you ask for the business. And they may not have that need if you haven't established. So I'll give you an example of that. So I may say, so if you found that if you were found more often on the first page of Google, you'd get more inquiries, which would turn into more sales, right? So would you say that that's a priority for your business? And that's me establishing, they'll have to say yes, so that I know that is the lead. That's where that's what they need as a business. But yeah, make sure you re-establish the need. Okay. The unique selling points and marginal gains. This is contentious, and people may agree or not agree. But unique selling points. We at Anicca, when I first started, I took some time to think about what are our unique selling points, and there's definitely things that we've got some fantastic case studies. We've won some great awards. We were talking only yesterday about our tech stack and how the amount of software that we use can be a unique selling point because it helps those businesses. There's such a lot we can get out of that software. But actually, the majority of us that are in this room are working in commoditized businesses. So there'll be 100 accountants, 100 creative agencies. I think at the last count, there was about 300 digital agencies in Leicestershire. And they're all going to be saying the same thing. You know, we've got great customer service. We work with some fantastic clients. I've said that already on this webinar. We've won awards. But what actually makes you stand out? And that's where I've put the UHP, as opposed to the unique selling proposition or unique selling point. It's the unique human proposition, because people buy off people. And really, at the end of the day, when I'm being sold to, can I work with this person? Do I get the vibe? And what does my gut say? So although it's great to try and establish some unique selling points, it's also important to realize that people buy off people at that sort of like end of. If you don't get on with that person, that's it. So they got to like you, and that. But there are some other little marginal gains that you can do that sound so daftly obvious, but it's all these little things that add up to make you stand out. Because if your competitors aren't doing these things, this is how you're going to make the impression. So it's those first impressions. So, you know, having the right, I'd say having your camera on for a call, for example, or having the right clothes on, it could be for the right client. It's preparing and make sure you know you've done your homework on that business. Being on time sounds stupidly obvious, but actually, it's a bugbear for me. But people are late for calls, even when they're trying to sell to me. So, you know, it's important to be on time. Be dead curious. Ask lots and lots of questions. Be authentic. That sounds obvious, but there's people that are very sort of they think the egotistical, or they think they're self-important. And I think it's really important to be humble and authentic, especially in these times, to have empathy. And yes, I do always ask about how the COVID is going for that person that I'm speaking to, because everybody's got a different COVID experience. And what I'll find 9 times out of 10 is people want to share that experience with you, just to find out how things are going. So it's important to understand how things are hitting them at the minute. And yeah, the daft one again is just to smile. Really important. So they're my little tips that are a little bit embarrassing to put in the presentation because feel very obvious, but you know, it's sometimes just important to reinforce these things. Okay. So what makes a great salesperson? I'll run through these. As vision. The importance of goal setting is so important. So what is that vision? Having passion. This one, if you don't believe in what you're selling, then you're in the wrong job. If you don't believe in what you're selling and you own the business, you're in the wrong business. And the amount of people that have said to me, oh, I don't like my job, or I'm not enjoying my job. Well, to me, it's a question of, well, just get another job then. Because if you're working for too long hours, so you've got to have the passion. If you really believe in what you're selling, that passion will come across. You've got to have drive, ambition, determination, and motivation, and the competitive spirit. So I'm really competitive. I'm the only business development person, except for Anne, of course, at Anicca. But it motivates me to be competitive. So I'm competitive against the other people in my industry that are also talking to these clients. And salespeople generally do have a very competitive nature, which makes them determined and motivated. Having confidence. So it's important to know your product or service. I don't profess to know everything about Anicca's service, having been in post for 4 months, I think. But it's important to make sure you learn that as soon as possible, because it'll help with your self-confidence. And if you've got self-confidence, that assures your potential clients, and that makes them more confident in you. And that goes back to the point that that's who they're buying off. Although they're buying into Anicca, they're buying off you. Humility. So that goes back to the last slide again. People don't like people with big egos that are too salesy. Be humble. Treat everyone in the business, from the cleaner up to the CEO, with the same respect. Be honest. And with all those things, you'll gain that client's trust. Reciprocity. That's easy for me to say. Be a giver. Help people. Find out what the pains and challenges are that have got nothing to do with what you're selling, but see if you can help them with any of their other problems. Because I believe with karma, you know, what goes around it comes around. And if you give, you'll get back. And if you're helpful, other people will help you. So reciprocity is important. The one I suppose I've missed off the list is persuasiveness. So that goes back to the value in the proposition, getting that value across. What's the strength? Have you got the strength of your argument? Is it imploring to the client, and can you get them to see the value? And can you get them to agree to that value? So persuasiveness is a good trait to have as a salesperson. Before I go on to this slide, just me and Anne were talking before the webinar. It is really hard to find good salespeople. There's been many times where they sell themselves at interview, but then they don't walk the walk when they get in the role. I suppose that if the main thing is ethic, I suppose, if they've got a fantastic work ethic, a lot of the other things can be trained or learned. But I've got to say, I've seen salespeople come and go very quickly over the years that you'd think were going to be mind-blowing in an interview. And it is, it is hard work to find the right salespeople. Yeah.
I'd just like to echo that, Angie, because we've over the years sort of tried different people, and they've just either not got the business, or they go in too hard sales, they sell the wrong thing, or they just don't understand the sort of consultancy aspect of what we do, or they just expect us to provide all the leads and they don't open the doors. Whereas what's impressed me about your ability is that you may not understand in as much detail the technical aspects that I do, but what you're really good is understanding the commercial needs of the clients, and you just open doors. And because people have been working with you for years and years, they just trust you. And so if you go and talk to somebody that, you've had a relationship over the last 10 years with, and you say, look, I'm working with a different company, we do things differently, they just believe you. And I think that long-term relationship is what I've not seen with other people, and that hunger to go and help people I haven't seen with other people as well.
This is it. I think when in all my years at Reach and beyond, I'd say, but when you start a business relationship and they say, no, it's not for me, or it's not the right time, or we ain't got the money at the minute, or whatever the reason be, it's just make sure that you keep up that business relationship. And it's like we'll nurture leads digitally. It's exactly the same with relationships. They need nurturing. So yeah, it's just keeping in touch and trying to help people, really.
I mean, my take home message for that is just the first salesperson doesn't work. I'm really annoyed that I wasn't a bit more persistent 5 years ago. I think, I've been put off so many times before, and what I've noticed is the other agencies that have been successful have managed to get this right. And I think if your long-term, as a business, your long-term objective is to grow, you can't just do it with marketing on its own, and you can't just do it on your own. I mean, Anicca's, I've been running Anicca in some form for 14 years now, and I pretty much, until this year, have had to do a lot of it on my own, plus all the, the technical staff obviously sell into their existing clients. And they do help with the sales process. I'm not going to take all the glory. But what a difference having the right salesperson makes. It's been, and particularly under the current circumstances. So yeah, persist, and if you can't get the right salesperson, try another one.
Yeah.
And don't hold on to people too long if they don't work out. I think that's the other mistake we've made. I think kept people for too long when really we knew that it wasn't working. I think we've made that mistake as well. Anyway, I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, I'm conscious of time, but yeah, and I'll give you that 50 quid later, and then we'll talk about that pay rise. Okay. Joke. So objections. People are happy to do what they've always done a lot of the time. So often it's not an objection. It's just an excuse. People will stay in the status quo. People think it's too hard to make the changes. So sometimes your objection isn't really an objection at all. It's just an excuse. And that means you're probably just not convinced them of the value of the proposition in the first place. So an idea, if you're getting objections which sound like excuses, is just to go back to repeat and establish the need back to that client. So for example, Mr. Customer, you said to me that you need more leads in your business to make more money, and that's a priority, right? So at the end of the day, if you carry on doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results, and then reiterate the value of your proposition. Two common objections are time and money, and it may be the wrong time, and we've just got to take that. But that doesn't mean a no, not ever. It's just a no, not now, and that can be revisited. And with the money objection, I think that could be handled a lot earlier in the conversation when you're doing that initial fact find. It shouldn't be a ta-da at the end, and this is what we cost. You should feed that in a lot earlier in the conversation to gauge how that client feels about that. And also, if you found out what the average order values are and their conversion rates, etc., and done the fact find properly, you'll know anyway whether that client can afford your service. Closing the sale, here we are. So there's different types of closes. There's like an assumptive close, which is the likes of, so shall we get the paperwork signed? Or there's the alternative close. Would you like to pay monthly or annually with a discount, for example? But I do think that we're not in the 80s anymore, and I don't think these kind of things work anymore. I think they're manipulative of the client, and they don't work for you're talking to somebody's equal. Clients are people are a lot more savvy as to how salespeople work, and it's not the closing of a sale that's important. It's opening that business relationship. We're right at the very start of a hopefully very long journey, and you should have the nous in the first instance, and to have gauged whether it is the correct time to close. So you don't necessarily have to close in that meeting, and you shouldn't feel like forced to. So if the time is right and you do want to, let's say, close or open, as I would put it, then the kind of language and terms that I would use will be the likes of, okay, so are you happy to talk about how we can progress this, or shall we discuss what the next steps should be? So these kind of terms are so much more collaborative and feel more like it's a partnership than, do you want to pay cash or check, which was the old school way. And to reiterate, when they say no, don't worry about that rejection. It's just a no, not now. Keep in touch. Remember that Watling JCB example? I had some little bits, but I don't know whether we've got time, man, just to talk. I pretty much said everything throughout the presentation that's covered on this last final slide. But all I'll end with really is then I'd be doing myself a bit of a disservice, and I'd be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't ask the question in a sales webinar if we can help you, because our webinars aren't a platform to sell, but we're there to impart knowledge and to help other businesses, as you know. But seeing it is the topic of sales, I suppose there's no better time to ask if we can help you. And you'd be more than welcome just to get in touch for a chat, and we can see if we're a good fit to work together, if it's appropriate and if it's the right time for you. Often in these webinars, the guys come up with softwares or readings or books to read or blogs to read. So I suppose if there's a takeaway reading from my presentation, I would say read the poem If by Rudyard Kipling, and that is pretty much covered in the whole presentation, but just in different words. And that's an insight to what I do. And thank you for listening. And, any questions?
Excellent. So let's turn our cameras on and we'll see what else. There's a few comments coming in. I think it's really interesting about how you close a sale and sort of negotiate prices and things. I've always feel that in some respects you shouldn't be trying to be greedy. If you try and take too much from the customer and they feel like they've not got a good deal as well, then or you don't give a little bit away, then actually that's not a very good way of starting a relationship. Both people have to feel that it's right. So do you ever have an issue when it comes to, what's your view on discounting? What I can tell you what Anicca's done in the past, but what's your experience on sort of providing discounts or trying to incentivize to get the sale? Is it a certain type of person? Is it a certain type of incentive? When do you think that you should provide incentives? And then my second question, which relates to somebody Georgina's asked, is at what point do you think that you need to bring in a technical person in the sales process? So there's two questions there. One's about discounts and incentives, and one's about bringing in somebody else into the sales process. So let's have a bit of a discussion about that.
Okay, incentives. It does depend what you're selling, but I can give you my perspective from working for Anicca and Reach, actually. So I think that if you've got your proposition right and it's priced right, then there wouldn't be any need to incentivize through discount. However, if that customer, and we've all been there, it might take a little something to get them over the line. I think adding more value to what you're offering them rather than a discount would be preferable. So giving them from us, it could be giving them an audit, or inviting them to a webinar, or asking them to come to one of our DMI training sessions in a particular subject that they're really interested in growing in. I think that would be a better proposition than discount, but that's not the same for all types of businesses. Discounts can work really well for other types of business. Groupon, for example, so
they've not done very well though.
No, they haven't. No.
To be honest, the only thing we've really done over the years is we've encouraged people to stay longer. So if somebody's prepared to sign up for a 2-year contract, or they want more days, then we can do something around the price in there. That's something that we've done. The other thing that we've done is a lot of our projects have a big setup cost. So one of the things we've tried to do is spread the cost evenly over the whole contract, so that there's not a big cost at the beginning, and then we take a bit of a hit at the beginning, and then it evens out over the year, and then that often brings the project into their budget. And particularly if you extend it means overall, because obviously our biggest cost is bringing in staff. So if we know we've got a project for longer. Interestingly, Mark, where he was speaking, he said, while you were speaking, he said exactly the same thing. It's almost like you two were telepathic.
It's
and what
true,
about
though.
bringing in? What about bringing other people into the conversation? When do you involve myself or the technical staff? At what point do you think that you need to bring other people in with a consultative sale?
It's in that second meeting when we go through the proposal. So it's at that point where the customer wants to find out more technically, and they may not be technical themselves. It's just about what the strategy is and how they would implement that strategy. But it's great that we've got a team, actually, and I think it's been proven through these webinars, where they don't overcomplicate that and make it too technical. They're very good at simplifying it to put it in layman's terms. But as my months and months go on with Anicca, I'm sure I can do a lot more of that myself. But at the moment, just 4 months in, I'd say once we've got the proposal written, that's when we bring the technical team in. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm conscious that everybody has to disappear at 10 o'clock, but I do have quite a lot of notices and offers and things for this week. So I'm just going to bring a couple of those up. So the first thing I'd like to mention is we're doing a benchmarking survey. This is our first one, but we intend to do this annually. And there is a prize draw associated with it. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes to actually complete. So I'll just bring that up. And if you click on the link, then you can then click through and go and look at the blog and take part. What we'll be doing is we'll be closing the survey just before the conference, which is the 12th. The conference is on the 16th. And then we'll take a few snippets from it. I've already got some really interesting information. I think 75% of the people so far that have filled it in want to do more marketing in 2021 because of what's happened in 2020. But if you'd like to have a go at filling that in, that would be really, really helpful for us. And then what we'll do is then during the conference, we'll open it up as well so people can complete it again if they haven't already done so. I've just mentioned the conference. So this is our 6th annual conference, Leicester Digital Virtually Live. It's going to happen on the 16th of February. There's 2 streams. So there's the introductory stream, which is Ask Anicca. That's 10 sessions from most of the technical staff at Anicca. And then I'm hosting the main conference, which is all our guest speakers. So some of the guest speakers are shown here. If you haven't already signed up, please sign up now. I'll just send you this one. There is actually 2 sign-up points. So if you want to sign up for this, you will get sent the other email to join the other one anyway. But this is to sign up for the guest speakers and the suppliers. And we got people like SEM Rush, SimilarWeb, Yoast, all speaking, and then lots of other technical and suppliers. And there's a mix. There's some really advanced stuff, and then there's some really interesting stuff about how to do better time management. So it's a bit of a mixed session. But it's really designed for you to, we've got an agenda where you've got both sessions side by side, so you can mix and match. And I think, yes, we have a little bit of a plug. Mark, who's sitting in the audience, we've got Mark's session next week. Now, Mark has joined us, the content marketing team. He joined mid-COVID in the middle of last year. And his webinar is not looking at content from an SEO perspective, but actually how to engage the user, the creative process. So I think that will be very, very interesting for lots of you in the audience, because I know a lot of you are writing content on your websites. And I think that's it for today. There's a couple of people asking a few questions. Richard asked about trials. It's really difficult to trial our service because of the amount of time it takes to understand the client and actually investing in the setup process. We effectively use at least the first month to set up our digital marketing. So as Angie said, it's quite difficult. And also the other thing with a lot of the work that we do, there's a cost associated with the ad spend on Facebook or Google Ads, etc. So I guess in a way what we've been doing with the webinars, and you can go and look at we've done over 50 webinars now in the last year, is we've been trying to sort of give you a bit of a taster of what we do and how we do it, rather than providing like a free trial. It's just too expensive to do that, and most of the clients that we work with have used agencies before. We only have 35 clients at the moment, and that will probably be 40 in the next 2 months. So it's really difficult for us to do free trials. It just doesn't work. We occasionally help out some charities, and we'll obviously help out with training. But yeah, that isn't really applicable in this type. I mean, you wouldn't go to your accountant and ask them to give you a free trial to do your tax return at the end of the year, and I guess it's similar for us. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We've hit 10 o'clock. If any of you have got any more questions, if you want to stick them in the chat, and I look forward to seeing you all next week with the webinar with Mark. And I'll just bring up the the survey again, so that anybody else that hasn't had a chance to click on it can have a go. And we'll speak to you next week. Thanks very much, everybody. And thanks very much, Angie. That was brilliant. And considering you were quite nervous, I didn't think that came across at all. So well done.
Thanks, Anne. You're a good one.
And I'll pay you that tenner later.
Yeah, all right, mate.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.